Have you ever hugged a woman you were genuinely into, held her close for a few seconds, and then watched her pull away with that polite smile, the one that says, "That was fine," instead of, "I never want to let go"? You felt the warmth of her body. You were right there. And still somehow nothing transferred. No electricity. No lingering. She stepped back, the moment closed, and you were left standing there wondering what you missed. That feeling is real. And it's more common than you think. I'm your host, and this is Echoes of My Hearts, where we uncover the real psychology behind desire. Not the surface stuff, not the pickup lines, but the deep patterns that actually move women emotionally. Today we're going into something most men completely overlook. The hug. Specifically, how to touch her during a hug so that she doesn't just enjoy it, she craves the next one before the first one even ends. And I'll warn you now, the final trigger I share today is incredibly powerful. Almost no one uses it correctly. But when you do, it creates a kind of longing in her that she genuinely can't explain. Stay with me until the end. First, let's name the real problem, because it isn't what you think it is. Most men believe that attraction during physical touch is about technique, about where you put your hands or how long you hold on. They think it's about being smooth or confident or physically impressive. So they either overthink every movement and come across rigid, or they dive in too casually and it reads as generic. Either way, she feels nothing deeper than the physical contact itself. And then she pulls away. And the man blames himself. He thinks he's awkward, or not attractive enough, or that she's just not interested. None of that is true. This was never your fault. Nobody taught you this. What you were never told is that female attraction during physical touch is not primarily physical. It's emotional and subconscious. Her nervous system is running a program in the background every single time she's near you. It's scanning for safety, for strength, for intentionality. It's asking, does this man know who he is? Does he make me feel like I matter? Does his touch say something, or is it just contact? That program runs below the level of conscious thought. She doesn't decide to feel it. It just happens. Or it doesn't. So when a hug lands flat, it's not because you're broken. It's because you were missing the signals. You were playing the physical game when the real game was always emotional. Once you understand that, everything changes. Here's the framework. Evolutionary psychology tells us that women are wired to be deeply responsive to cues of safety, status, and genuine presence. For most of human history, choosing the wrong man had consequences. Her subconscious never forgot that. So today, even in a casual hug between two adults, her nervous system is still doing a rapid scan. It's reading your energy before it reads your hands. It's measuring your groundedness before it registers your touch. And oxytocin, the bonding hormone, only floods her system under specific conditions. When she feels genuinely safe, when she feels emotionally seen, when the touch is intentional rather than hungry or vacant. This means you can be the most physically attractive man in the room and still trigger nothing. And you can be an ordinary-looking guy who understands these deep patterns and leave her replaying the hug in her head 2 days later. What you're about to learn isn't manipulation, it's calibration. These are real tools. Use them with respect, use them with intention, and watch what happens. Let's talk about the first thing that needs to be in place before you ever open your arms. Masculine presence. This is the foundation. Not your looks, not your height, not your clothes, your energy, the way you exist in the space around her. When a grounded man approaches, something in her body registers it before he even touches her. His movements are unhurried. His eye contact doesn't flinch. He doesn't lean toward her with desperation or lean away with self-consciousness. He simply arrives, fully, calmly, without apology. That is presence. And presence is felt before a single finger makes contact. The you version of this looks like you're at the end of a date or a social gathering. She's saying goodbye. Instead of rushing toward the hug with that slightly anxious energy, the "I hope this goes well" energy, you pause. You make brief, warm, unhurried eye contact. You let the moment breathe for 1 second. Then you open your arms with quiet certainty, not grabbing, not hesitating, just offering. That 1 second of stillness communicates more about your character than an hour of conversation. Your energy speaks before your arms do. Now, presence gets her nervous system to lower its guard. But presence alone doesn't create craving. For that, we need the second element. Emotional challenge. This might sound counterintuitive, so stay with me. Women are not deeply attracted to men who are entirely predictable, entirely available, entirely easy to read. They're attracted to men who have a full inner world. Men who aren't performing for her approval. A light, playful tease before a hug creates what psychologists call polarity. It introduces a gentle tension that makes the warmth of the physical contact hit harder by contrast. The you version, before you go in for the hug, you look at her with a half smile and say something like, "You know, you've been insufferable all evening. Come here." Light. warm, slightly teasing. Then the hug follows, and because she's smiling, maybe laughing, her body is already soft and open. The contrast between the teasing and the warmth of the embrace creates a spike of oxytocin that a flat, okay goodbye hug never could. The tease makes the tenderness land harder. Third, selective attention. This one is about what you do before and after the hug as much as during it. A man who gives every woman the same warm, undivided attention is unconsciously communicating that his attention has no value. But a man who has clearly been engaged, alive, interested in multiple people throughout the evening, and then turns his full focus to her in that final moment, creates a completely different experience. Her subconscious registers the scarcity. His attention isn't everywhere. It's here. On me. The you version. You've been genuinely engaged all evening, laughing with other people, not watching her, not hovering. And then in the final minutes, you naturally drift into her space, and that's when the hug happens. She notices that your attention has a weight to it. It means something, because it isn't constant. Rare attention feels like a gift. Fourth, intentional listening. This one lives inside the hug itself, but it actually starts hours before. The most powerful thing you can do during a hug, and almost no man does this, is quietly reference something small she told you earlier, a detail she didn't think you noticed. Her nervous system lights up when she realizes you were genuinely listening, that she wasn't just a face in your evening, that she was heard. The you version. She mentioned earlier briefly that she's nervous about something coming up at work. As you hug her, you say softly, not loudly, not performatively, just close enough that only she hears, "You're going to handle that work thing." "I can tell." And then the hug ends. She pulls back and looks at you slightly differently than she did before. You don't need many words. You need the right ones at the right moment. Being truly seen is more intimate than being touched. Now, if this is landing for you, if you're starting to see that there's a whole architecture here that nobody ever laid out clearly, hit subscribe and join the Echoes of My Heart's community. It helps more men learn what they were never taught. Real psychology, real patterns. No games? Let's keep going. Because we're getting to the layers that truly separate the men who get forgotten from the men who get thought about at 2 a.m. Fifth, calibrated vulnerability. This is where most men either shut down completely or overcorrect into emotional dumping. Neither works. What creates deep attraction is a man who can share something real, something honest, without making her responsible for carrying it. A brief, genuine moment of openness during a goodbye hug signals safety. It says, "I'm not performing. I'm not hiding. I'm just here." The you version. As the hug is ending, you say something honest and understated. "Tonight was good. I needed this." Not dramatic. Not heavy. Just true. She registers it as authenticity, as emotional courage. And that registers as strength, not weakness, because it came without any need for her to respond in a particular way. A man who can feel without collapsing is deeply attractive. Sixth, gradual physical touch. This is the most literal trigger, but it's also the most nuanced. The key word is gradual. The nervous system responds to touch that respects its pace. When you move into a hug with controlled, unhurried intention, hands placed with quiet deliberateness rather than grabbing or barely making contact, her body reads that as safety. And safety is the prerequisite for oxytocin release. Without oxytocin, it's just contact. With it, it's a memory. The specifics matter here. Where you place your hands matters. The center of the upper back, steady and warm, communicates groundedness. A light movement, not a rub, not a pat, just a single slow press, tells her that you're fully present in this moment. Not distracted. Not hurried. Just here. The duration matters too. Don't rush out of it. Don't overstay. Let her body set the pace. Pay attention. When she begins to shift, that's your cue to let go, but let go slowly. Not clingy, not abrupt, like you have somewhere to be, but you savored this. Touch that respects her pace opens what pressure never could. And now, the seventh trigger. The one I warned you about at the beginning. The one almost no one uses correctly. Controlled unpredictability. Dopamine, the neurochemical of desire, of craving, of "I need to figure this out," is not triggered by certainty. It's triggered by rewarding uncertainty. Slot machines are addictive not because they always pay out, but because they sometimes do, unpredictably. Human attraction runs on a very similar neurological track. A man who is entirely predictable, entirely readable, gives her nervous system nothing to chase. But a man who operates just slightly outside of her expectations, she thinks about him. Here's what this looks like in the context of a hug. Everything has been warm, present, connected. The hug is good. And then, as you pull back, instead of the expected lingering eye contact or the sweet smile, you do something slightly unexpected. Maybe you look at her for one beat, then glance away first. Not cold, not dismissive, just moving forward with quiet confidence. Or you say something completely unpredictable, something that has nothing to do with the goodbye energy, something that makes her think, I have a feeling about you, and then you leave before she can ask what you mean. She will think about that, not obsessively, but it will be there. A small loop that didn't close, and the next time she sees you, that loop will want to close, which means she will want to see you. The hug she can explain means nothing. The hug she can't explain stays with her. Now let's pull all of this together into who you actually become when you understand this. Because here's the shift I want you to feel right now. The man who reads this and thinks, okay, 7 things to remember, I'll try to execute these, will probably not change much. Because he's still in the doing mindset. He's still performing for her reaction. But the man who reads this and thinks, oh, I see what's actually happening here. I see the deeper game. I see why she responds the way she does, and I see what I was missing. That man has already leveled up. Not because he memorized steps, but because he now sees the architecture of attraction differently. He understands that her nervous system is running a program. He understands that his energy arrives before his words. He understands that intentionality is felt. That real listening is rare and therefore powerful. That vulnerability from strength reads differently than vulnerability from need. That uncertainty, when it's controlled and warm, creates more pull than any amount of availability ever could. That man doesn't need to be perfect. He needs to be present, intentional, and calibrated. That's all. And that's entirely within reach. You don't need to transform into a different person. You need to understand the signals you were already sending and choose better ones. You need to stop approaching touch as a physical transaction and start understanding it as an emotional communication. Every time you're near a woman you care about, your body is already speaking. The question is whether it's saying what you want it to say. Now it is. The hug is not a formality. It's not a courtesy. In the right hands, hands guided by presence, intention, warmth, and the quiet confidence of a man who knows his own value, a hug is one of the most powerful moments of nonverbal communication available to you. It can do in 8 seconds what an hour of clever conversation sometimes can't. It can make her feel seen, safe, desired, and curious all at once. And all she'll know is that something felt different about you. Something felt real. That's the goal. Not to impress her, not to trigger her, not to manipulate her into feeling something false, but to finally show up in a way that reflects who you actually are, a man with depth, with intention, with the emotional intelligence to make a woman feel genuinely valued in a moment that most men treat as a throwaway. These are real tools. Use them with respect. Use them with intention. Not on every woman who crosses your path, but on the ones who matter. The ones worth showing up fully for. You didn't fail because you were broken. You failed because you weren't taught. Now you have been. That changes everything. You don't need perfection. You need strategy. You have it now. And look, the journey doesn't end here. This is one layer of a much deeper understanding. There is a version of you that women don't just enjoy spending time with. There is a version of you that they think about, that they want to impress, that they genuinely hope calls. That version of you isn't some fictional ideal. He's just the version of you who understands what you now understand and keeps going deeper. That's what this channel is for. That's what every video here is built toward. Not tricks. Not manipulation. Not hollow confidence built on borrowed lines. Real transformation. Real tools. Real understanding of the psychology that creates genuine, lasting desire. If you're ready to stop chasing and start becoming the man women genuinely desire, subscribe to Echoes of My Hearts right now. Turn on notifications, because the next one will shift your reality again.